before we continue into this video, please hit the subscribe button and enjoy. So in this project, I also added Yuushya CIT pack into my laptop that is currently on life support. Okay, I'm really confident my laptop is going to handle all of this. Now, because this is a large-scale project, since we need to work on multiple buildings, because I love pain, makes you stronger, I invited my friend Saki to lend me a hand on this project. Oh, and by the way, you can now download all my builds in Planet Minecraft, including this harbor, link in the description below. But without further ado, let's get building. Starting off, we found this nice little mountain here, and then we started committing arson and started blowing up the mountains. After long grueling hours of terraforming, this is what we end up with. We then started constructing the platform and this tiny little lighthouse. Blush. While building, me and Saki discovered a cave that is just right below the harbor, and because this cave circles, we decided to call it the Donut Cave. You know, I really like to randomly watch and follow small indie game devlogs, patiently waiting for them to finally release. Now there are two particular games that really caught my attention, which is Chef RPG and Eastward. When I first saw these two games, I immediately fell in love with the art style, so I decided to use both of this game as a reference. For the aesthetics, I'm going for a much more suburb and densely populated areas, taking inspirations from China, Hong Kong, and mainly Japan. And with that, I made a sketch, and I spent hours on these things. And it's finally done. So there will be 4 main buildings for this harbor. We have the grocery shop, the fish market, the restaurant, and lastly, the apartment. So let's tackle the grocery shop. The first building we are gonna work on is quite easy because the shape is pretty simple. It's literally a cube. Yes, a boring cube. Just like my life. Never mind, I'm kidding. Actually, me and Saki find it difficult to look for a good color palette at first. I tried stones, bricks, but then I came across this Mizuno textures for deep slate. It has this very industrial metallic texture, so I used that combined with cocoa blocks to make it look aged and rusty. We didn't wanna add too much vine on the walls because it will make it look abandoned. For the interior, due to the limited space we have, I made it really cramped inside. It must have sucked being the cashier. Saki also came up with this shelf design, which I think it really fits, but at the same time it really takes up a lot of space. And we just fill it up with veggies, clothes, tissue rolls, and drinks. Right here in the corner we have the counter area. Now there isn't a lot in this space. We only had some TV and books on the back. After all that decorating, something feels up. It's that the walls are way too empty. So we added this bulletin board as well as this school uniform. After all that decorating, we need to come up with a name for the mart. I discussed it with Saki and Mo. Awesome. So we did just that. And with that, we have finished our first building. I would give this build a rating of Mo out of 10. Now let's move on to the second build, which is the fish market. At first we experimented with quite a lot of color palettes until we ended up with quartz bricks and this Mizuno 16 Crafts purple block double step texture, aka bathroom tiles. While I was working on the front stall, Saki worked on the guarding area. While Saki worked on that, I also added some fish tanks in the front. If you wonder why the water isn't pouring out, I simply blocked it with a barrier block, which goes invisible when you stop holding it. But things get a little bit catastrophic when I accidentally break one of those barriers, causing the fishes to flood out. Rest in peace, fishy. You will always be remembered. For the front stalls, I added a lot of details like these lanterns, these red and blue roofs to add a little bit more color to the front, and some hanging fishes. Oh, and I also added another detail that I need to mention, which is this hanging squid. Ew, gross. And Saki added another stalls. At this point, both of us are running dry of ideas for the market, so I looked through references and got one of this Japanese goldfish cubing game, so I tried doing the same thing here, except with tropical fish. And now that the interior of the fish market is done, there's one last thing to add. I tried building this fish statue without using any tutorials, and it's really tricky to make. I finally ended up with this fish statue, unintended, but decided to change the skin to bright orange just to make it stand out a little bit more in the night. With that, we have officially completed our second build. Oh, and Saki added the eyebrows as a joke, but I thought it looked good, so I just decided to keep it there. So you better hit the subscribe button or this fish will hurt you. Remember when I told you that this build is heavily inspired by games like Eastward? Now this build is a really unique one because I took inspiration from this building with a bus on top for some reason, and also unlike the two builds before, this one is extremely difficult as I had never made a modern build before. Just like the source reference, we wanted to try to make it very messy, dystopian, like it's just like every scrap materials was clumped together to form a house, and I even included a little simple story behind it, but we'll get onto that later. Now in contrast with the industrial chaos feel of the lower parts, the rooftop was filled with plants, making it have this very Studio Ghibli vibes. Again, we added more details like these chimneys or antennas, even a hanging cloth. For the bus right there, just imagine a Fortnite battle bus just suddenly burst and crashed onto the house. And now we got this. And I also changed the flooring from this wood-like texture to a granite texture. For the ramen restaurant, it was really small in scale, so we had this really compact table area and some details like those hanging herbs on the bed. But overall, this build was essentially complete. I love how unique this build is to the rest of the others. Transition. Remember the apartment that I talked about earlier? Well, I replaced it with an antique store, but don't worry, we'll tackle the building in the next episode. Now I wanted to add something unique to this building, and it was a shrine at the rooftop, resembling that of a traditional Shinto shrine. We first started out simple from the inside, but eventually we expanded upon the idea, and I continued looking through references and began upgrading the interior. And here's the end result. Now for the last bits, let's tackle the building itself. I added some windows to add more life in here, and because this is an antique store, you can pretty much find almost anything here, like from a old broken piano, fossils, gems, pretty much anything you can think of, except for happiness. Oh, and Saki also added this secret room which can be used to teleport to our previous collaboration build. But anyways, let's work on the second floor. For the second floor, I want to make it like some sort of an unfinished storage area. So there's these boxes everywhere. Oh, hello little spider. Unfortunately, however, the footage of the building process got corrupted, so here's the final result. And with that, we have finished our fourth and last building for today. Although most of the building has been completed, we do still have a few left to work on the next part. This includes the apartment, the lighthouse. There's also this mysterious cavern area underneath the harbor that is a part of the Donut Cave. Not to mention, I also added a little lore to the build that you can discover inside the cave. And by the time this video releases, I had already published a download link in Planet Minecraft, so check it out in the description below. Now, because this type of videos took me a long time to make, and editing this gave me emotional damage. So please hit the subscribe button and goodbye!